here's actually the really crazier part. And this is a twist you're not gonna see coming to this story. Woo! Ugh. Hey, Pablo Barn Cat. It's kind of a rainy morning, isn't it? Ugh. Welcome back to the farm, everybody. Yeah, we have a very rainy day here on the farm, which I'm actually kind of happy about. As most of you guys know, we've been in drought and or severe drought conditions for most of the fall. And the fact that we're gonna have rain pretty much most of the day is a good thing. Of course, that rain is not stopping these chickens from wandering around. What are you doing out here, guys? Thought you'd be taking cover. I guess not. At least it looks like Abby Dog and Toby Dog have been taking cover. What's up, Abs? How you doing, sweetie? You're looking soggy. You're looking soggy, girl. Hi. I'm gonna give you a treat. This is for your joint health. Enjoy. I don't see Toby Dog out, but I'm pretty sure I know where I can find my Toby Dog. I'll be with you in a second, girls. The goats hate the rain more than the dogs hate the rain. The goats hate the rain above all else. Hey, Toby Dog. I knew I'd find you in here, as well as the smarter chickens like Pingu, who know that it's much better to be in the greenhouse on a day like today.
Oh, let's get some love from the dogs. Oh yes, good dogs, good dogs, yeah.
Well, this is definitely one of those days where I'm not looking forward to working outside. And as far as being on top of winter preps and farm projects, I'm actually in relatively good shape. Hey girls, hey Bluey, hey Bingo. What's up, Lauren? Barnacus? Telemachus? Everybody looks nice and cozy in here, actually. Of course, Lauren is dropping raisinets back there. Hey, what's up, Barney? Bonk, 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 bonk. Hi, girls. How are you? Yeah, this is a nice shelter in here. This is working out great. The goats really like it in here. Keeps them nice and dry and out of the elements, so makes me very glad I have it. We'll let them wander around for the day. Girls want to follow me to the greenhouse and eat more of those pumpkins? Come on, let's go. Yes, the animals have been devouring pumpkins on a daily basis. A lot of our giant pumpkins have been eaten. The cattle ate the biggest pumpkin. Hey, Blue and Bingo, are you gonna follow me? Or are you gonna stay in there? Because you don't want to be in the rain. I don't think they want to be in the rain. Here, Toby Dog, this is for you. This is your joint health treat too. Toby's so dainty when it comes to treats. Abby, she scarps everything. Wait, are these fresh duck eggs or old duck eggs? Ooh, they feel light. Those are dangerous. They are foul, disgusting, ancient duck eggs from some point this summer. You do not want to mess with those at all. You know, one of the few winter preps I still have to do is I gotta close up the greenhouse walls, and I usually have like an end wall that I build here. You can actually see the lumber for it that I use. So I gotta like rebuild that frame and put that back up. So yes, that is still on the docket for farm preps that have to be done, but I don't feel like today is the day to do that. And rather, what I think I'm gonna do today is tell you guys a little bit of a story. Whew. All right, I think I finished my chores just in time before it started to like really just downpour out there. And it makes me very grateful to be in here with you guys and have the ability to just kind of chill and talk and hang out. Because I was actually thinking about something the other day. You guys know I've got a new book coming out. It's called Dirt Rich Living. It's coming out this winter, but we're in the midst of the pre-order, and I'm starting to do a whole bunch of stuff for pre-order promotion, and I'm starting to do press and interviews. And actually, just yesterday, somebody asked me an interesting question that I thought, I don't think I've talked all that much about with you guys. It's probably worth telling this story. People often ask me, like, how did I find our farm? And like, how did we end up, like, specifically here? Not like what made us motivated to make the leap, not like, you know, how did we choose to like want to be farmers in general, or even choose Vermont specifically, but like, how did we end up on this farm, this 160 plus acres here in Peacham, Vermont, the farm formerly known as the Shaw Farm? Like, how did we end up here? And well, that is a very good story, and my intention is to tell it to you guys this morning. I hear the barn cats in the back there, so you might hear some noise. They might be getting a little chaotic, and I'm almost certain that they're going to make a cameo at some point. This all starts back in 2015-ish or so, 2014, 2015, where I was living in Washington, D.C. I was miserable. I was unhappy with my job. I was unhappy with living in Washington, D.C. And I started to get this crazy idea of maybe one day wanting to move to a farm. And Allison, my wife, she was actually very supportive of the idea too, because, she and I had been, going on trips and visiting places like out in rural Virginia and rural Maryland and enjoying the country life and feeling like, yeah, this could be us. Maybe not full time, at least at that point in time, but definitely longer term. We're not necessarily feeling like city life is going to be for us forever. And so we were starting to explore our options. One of my best friends, been like one of my best friends since I was like 9-10 years old. He and his family actually had a farm, like a family farm in southwestern Vermont in a little town called Orwell. And I remember going to visit there as a kid. I remember, being in my 20s and hanging out with my buddy Mike and like going to visit there too and hanging out just with his dad, Jeff, who I've talked about in previous videos. Like I've always had such fond memories of that place, that when we started talking about getting a farm, thinking about Orwell, Vermont, and like that area specifically was one of the first places that popped to mind. Again, it was relatively close to friends and family, but at the same time, it'd be easy to get to a place like New York from. And so it was definitely on the list for us. The only problem was we couldn't really find a farm down there. And the second thing is Allison like really hated that area. Like, no, I shouldn't say that because it's gonna make her sound bad. And I don't mean to throw shade to Addison County, Vermont. But like, it was just not the place for her. And particularly there was this one farm right down the road from my friend's dad's farm that like, I was thinking we could maybe possibly swing buying this. And like we went there and she did not like it at all. She thought it was like a haunted house.
It didn't need a renovation. It needed an exorcism. It was very dark and dirty. I did not like it at all.
And so despite my dream initially being set on being in Orwell, Vermont, I knew that, look, Allison's going to be making trade-offs to make this jump anyway. I might as well go and look in an area that she was interested in. And one of the places that she really liked was up here in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. She felt like it just had a better vibe. It was definitely kind of more scenic with more mountains and looked more traditionally Vermont-y. She hadn't gotten into skiing really all that much at the time, but she knew that she might want to, and there's definitely more skiing in this area than that area, and I think that factored into it too. And so while we were living in Washington, D.C., we started the process of searching for properties. And we basically found the farm the same way we found each other, which was on the internet. And yes, I know I've told this in the past, but we actually originally met like on like an internet dating site in the late 2000s. Golly, geez, it was, wow, that was a long time ago.
You didn't do anything sketchy. Then we went on another date, and then a few more dates, and then I decided it still seems okay. And then I married you because nothing showed me that you were not okay. It kind of charmed me, I guess.
Yeah.
And your storytelling charm, actually.
Yeah, that's like one of the few things I'm actually good at. So there you go.
This is pre-apps, pre-swiping, pre any of that. Basically, it was very still sketchy and socially frowned upon to be meeting any sort of folks that you're dating on the internet. But we were both kind of socially awkward, and we found each other while we were living in Hartford on a dating site. And when I try to relay this part of the story to a lot of people, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, of course you'd find your wife on the internet. That's where everybody finds everybody. But again, back then, that was not the way at all. And so fast forward to, I guess it was about 2016 at this point, we were searching online. We were just sitting at our house in Washington, D.C. one evening looking, running searches for like acreage amounts and real estate and searching all sorts of various websites and stuff. And a listing popped up for a farm. And it was this farm specifically. When you look at the real estate listing pictures, which I'm shocked, but I still have on a folder in my computer somewhere, the place looked beautiful. It was this lovely old farmhouse with a big wraparound porch. It was like plenty of land. It looked picturesque, and we were like, wow, this is awesome. We had noticed that it had been on the market for a number of years, like 6 years almost, just a little bit shy of 6 years actually. And at the same time, the price was something we could definitely swing. The asking price was actually $350,000, which, in 2016 seemed really cheap and reasonable. And now this day and age for, 160 plus acres, plus the house, plus the barns, it just seems insane. But we noticed that it said sale pending. And so we were like, uh-oh, what's the deal here? Not knowing what that actually meant or if it was really the case because it had been listed for so long. I sent an email to the realtor, and she got back to me pretty quickly saying, hey, I know you're interested in it, but unfortunately, yeah, that farm is under contract. But I'll keep in touch with you and I'll keep an eye out to see if I see any properties that kind of fall into a similar category. And if they do, you'll be the first person I'll reach out to. And I'm like, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so, kind of gave up and we continued looking, and there were a couple other places we looked at, but nothing that we really liked nearly as much as the place that we saw online. That was this place. Well, fast forward to 2 or 3 weeks later, and it just so happened I was going to be coming up to Vermont to go actually hang out with my friend Mike down at his dad's place down in Orwell. And I get an email from the realtor and she's like, hey, that property you were interested in, while it was under contract, it actually fell out of contract. And if you're interested, you should come up here real quick and you can check it out. And I was like, wow, that's perfect. I'm going to be up there on Friday. Could I come meet you at the farm on Friday and check it out and see if it's even something we're interested in? And she's like, yes, that's perfect. And so I think that was like on a Tuesday, catch my flight Friday morning. I get here from Boston. I show up at the place. It was like a wet and rainy day in May, but definitely wet and rainy, cold vibes, not that different than what we've got here today. And I meet the selling agent as well as my agent right outside in front of the farm. And I look at it and I'm like, wow, this place is awesome. This is everything I've dreamed about for some sort of Vermont farm. Like, this place checks all the boxes. We do our tour of the house. I noticed the house needs a bit of work, but it's got great bones, and yeah, just with a little bit of effort and a little bit of money, you could really make this something special. Then, saw the big old barn and was both like equally fascinated with it and terrified of it, but was like, yeah, no, this is awesome. And then when it came to like walking the property and exploring the land with Kurt, who is the selling agent, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is exactly what I picture in my dreams. This is it. And so I tell them, gosh, I love this. I actually really think my wife is going to love this too. Can we come back next weekend and take a look? And if it's good, we're going to put in an offer really quickly. And so the realtors were like, yeah, definitely, that we can try to work that out. But just fair warning, it was in contract. It might go back into contract. And so if you're going to want to get it, you're going to have to act quick. And now part of me was like, they're probably like trying to like hard sell me and try to prevent me from trying to dicker, and like they just want to get this thing sold. And so I think that's maybe just the line that they're saying, but okay. So I talked to Allison. We decided to come back up that next weekend. I pull up into the driveway of the farm, actually even before the realtors got here, and Allison just takes one look at it, sees the porch, sees the house, sees the tiny little shack where actually the barn that I'm in right now was standing at the time, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And we tour the property, we look at it, we thank the realtors, we go have lunch. Over the course of that lunch, we like pretty much immediately decide, yes, let's just put it in an offer. The asking price was something that we could actually swing. And so we make the offer, the sellers accept it almost immediately. And like we're basically in contract on the house pretty much by like 6, 7 o'clock that night. Like it was bang, bang, wicked quick. It got done super, super fast. And so I was very excited about it. Allison was very excited about it. We set a closing date for like early June. And we're like, okay, this is going to be good. We get a lawyer, we start doing the whole process for everything you need to do to actually complete the transaction. And now I was scheduled to be coming up for the closing. Allison wasn't going to even come up for the closing. But about a week beforehand, we happened to be on a trip. And while I'm like going from one airport to another, like it was like a layover, I see a message from my real estate lawyer saying, please give me a call ASAP. We've run into some problems. We need to talk ASAP. And I'm like, oh crap. And so like at this airport terminal, I reach out to the lawyer and she's like, yeah, so here's what happened. We had our guy at the title office doing the title search, kind of making sure there were no liens, doing all the due diligence you do when you buy a property. And it looks like there is a lien on the property. And the people who were originally under contract to buy the farm, they actually have been the ones to put the lien on it, saying that they were already in contract, and they're now threatening to sue you guys, and they're probably going to sue the sellers, saying that they should have still been in contract and we should have never been even able to make the offer on the property. I know, that's kind of crazy, right? I'm talking to the lawyers, I'm talking to the realtors, and eventually kind of the full story comes out. You see, the people who were going to buy the farm were this couple out in San Francisco, but they were in the process of selling their house in San Francisco, and they were basically driving across the country with their kid, and they were coming here to get settled. And the thing about the contract that they were in with the sellers was there was this contingency that they couldn't close until they sell their house because, you know, they had money waiting for making deposits and all that stuff. You know how it works. And so there was that contingency, but there was like some gray area in the language. And to this day, I still don't actually have the contract language, so I can't speak to exactly what it is. But it was essentially something along the lines of somewhat of a gray area dispute. Ginny, don't knock the camera. Where basically the sellers felt like they had the right to exit the contract. The buyers did not. And they felt like the sellers had unilaterally made this decision. So the buyers felt like they still should have been in contract. The sellers felt like, no, you missed this one deadline date. And because you missed this one deadline date, it throws off the whole contract. We're done. And we're like, oh crap, what's happening here? And I was like so heartbroken because, you know, over the span of the couple of weeks that we'd gone into contract, I was like getting soil maps from the USDA, and I was like starting to dream about how I would be planting the permaculture orchard and what it would look like and what the strategy would be. Like I was essentially already closed on the property and making the plans inside my head that we had like actually purchased the place. And it was just a matter of time and like dotting I's and crossing T's. And it was merely a formality before this farm became ours. But the buyers did not see it that way. And in fact, they even sent us a letter a few days after the incident over the title search where they like said, unless we cease and desist trying to purchase this home and trying to spoil their deal, they will sue us. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, we're gonna get sued for trying to buy something that was listed on market and the realtor was doing it. And I'm the type of person that, generally speaking, when I'm challenged or like some sort of conflict comes up, I will lean into that conflict and dig in my heels. And you know how it's like usually fight or flight? Well, I am purely a flightless bird. And I just like, I'm ready for a fight. I'm raring for a fight. And so I'm like, oh no, there's no way in heck those folks are getting that property. And I'm like, ugh. And so I'm seething over the whole thing. Allison's kind of almost resigned to say, all right, well, maybe it wasn't in the cards. Maybe the place wasn't for us. But like, I don't know. I just wanted the place so bad. And I wasn't like willing to see any other perspective around it. And I was just locked in. Our lawyer says basically the only thing we can do is just hang back. And maybe we'll be able to get some damages from the seller if things don't work out, or maybe, who knows, things might work out and we might still be able to buy it. And there's just like this back and forth legal wrangling and negotiations happening between the seller and the buyer. And we're not involved. There's nothing we can do. We're just simply passive third parties adjacent to that whole dispute. And they don't try to sue us, which was good. But also we don't have the property, which is not good. And so, you know, basically we just kind of almost assumed that we weren't going to get it. And we go back to looking for more properties. We look at other places, but everything we're now seeing, we're comparing to this place, and none of them are nearly as perfect. And so it was kind of disheartening, but at the same time, it was what it was. 3 weeks go by and I get a text from the realtor and she's like, hey, do you have a minute? Give me a call. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, good news. The seller and the buyer have come to an agreement where they're going to dissolve their contract. There's going to be some sort of payout happening to the buyers. I can't speak to that, but they're resolving their issues. They're going to remove their lien. And the original contract you guys had been under can still stand as long as you guys are okay with adjusting the closing date to early July. And I'm like, really? And she's like, really? And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Okay, awesome. And so we set a closing date. It ended up being like mid-July because I couldn't get up there until then. Allison actually stayed in DC because she had some work stuff going on. I came up here for the closing. And when I get here and I meet the sellers, like, it's like kind of awkward, but friendly-ish. They're very nice people. And actually, I still know them. And they're actually still people I consider friends. And they're great people. And so please don't let me tell this story, make you think that they're bad, because I think it was just a matter of confusion on all sides here. But, you know, we close, I get the keys to the place, here I am on my farm, this is awesome. And so, like, I decided to come up that weekend and I was gonna kind of just walk around, figure things out, start making plans for what to do next and where to start. and to kind of do a full survey. I've got like an inspector coming to do checking on some things, like doing all that stuff. I'd like lined it up for like, it was like a long weekend, like even into like a Monday and Tuesday. Well, later that weekend, it was like a Sunday, I went down to the Peacham Cafe, which is, you know, still right a couple miles down the road from us. And I was going there to get my breakfast on the regular because we didn't really have a working kitchen here. And I get there and I'm talking to the women who were running the cafe at the time, who I was just starting to get to know and like having friendly banter with. We're talking, I get my egg sandwich, I'm walking out. And while I'm walking out at the little front tables out in front of the cafe, there's this couple who looks at me and they're like, "Excuse me, are you Morgan Gold?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so they're like, "Wow, really? Well, we're the Smiths." And that's not actually really their last name, but I'm just using this as a pseudonym for them. The Smiths were the people who were the buyers from San Francisco. And I'm like, "Oh, hello." And yeah, for like a split second, it felt very, very awkward. And I'm like, "Oh gosh, hi." And I'm like, I'm so sorry about everything. I've like basically apologized to them right out of the gate because I don't know, I kind of had a lot of empathy for them, right? Like, yes, they were screwing up my dream of buying the farm. And so in some ways in my mind, they were like the enemy. But if I like stepped back and really looked at it, these were just a family who was in the city, who wanted to leave the city and come to rural Vermont exactly like we did. The husband had this dream of actually doing like making cheese and raising dairy cattle on the farm. And like, so like there were like all these aspects of who they were that like I could see like kind of some similarities. And so we started chatting and we kind of hit it off. And like we sat and like talked for like an hour and really like cleared the air and things ended up being pretty good. And we walked away from that conversation and like exchanging information and saying, "Oh yeah, definitely we should, you know, catch up and grab dinner at some point." And yeah, we walked away from the conversation friends. And it all kind of worked out, which I don't know. I feel like there's been times in my life where things have not worked out. And that has often given me a bias that, you know, the world is stacked against me and things aren't going to go my way. But if I really step back and look at my life, I have been crazy, crazy lucky over the years. Like the amount of privilege and lucky breaks and just things working out in my favor. Like, I don't know, I've easily gained 3 or 4 lifetimes worth of those. Even this experience really had me saying, well, you know, even though I might be pessimistic and things are always working against me, you know what, if you can just be a little patient and hang in there, sometimes things will work out for the good. And yeah, we ended up with the farm. The couple from San Francisco, they bought a farm about 45 minutes, hour from here. And I'm actually still friends with the husband to this very day. Here's actually the really crazier part. And this is a twist you're not going to see coming to this story. The property they ended up buying wasn't as well suited for cattle, but it was very well suited for sheep. And so they started raising sheep. And because they had sheep, they needed a livestock guardian dog. And so the husband actually did a ton of research and found a pair of dogs down in Virginia. They were puppies. He brought them up here and he raised them from pups and they became the livestock guardian dogs for his sheep. The crazy thing about this, and this is why this is a crazy twist to the story, the male dog that he got is actually Toby Dog's father. Yes, I know. Crazy, right? Things come full circle. And the people you meet in one place become the support and help you get in another. And so, yeah, if we hadn't bought this farm, we would have never met those people and I would have never met Toby Dog. Of course, I might not have needed Toby Dog if we didn't have this farm. But I don't know. That all seems still kind of crazy to me. I've told bits and pieces of this one over the years, but I don't think I've ever actually kind of sat down and done like a full story time about this one. So I hope you enjoyed this story. And if you guys really like stories like this, you should unquestionably check out my new book, Dirt Rich Living, because that book is chock filled with stories exactly like this one. And I think you're going to like it because it is the story of all the twists and turns and all the things of how we ended up where we are today and doing what we're doing and starting this farm. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So that's the story. I'm going to probably go inside because it's still pouring rain. It's going to be pouring rain all day. But I hope you enjoyed this story. And yeah, if you get a chance, go pre-order Dirt Rich Living. And pre-orders really help me out too. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Oh, Jenny, you're killing my allergies, girl.
Oh man, I've been wanting to itch my nose. was the whole video.